I can't tell who wants this more, me or you.
I want this for you.
You say all the right things, don't you, Oz?
Hey, welcome back to ScreenCrush. My name's Colton, and these are all the Easter eggs, references, and little things you might have missed in The Penguin, Episode 3.
Hey, why are you wearing a tie?
Why are you wearing a shirt?
Touche.
Nah, I thought I would dress classy for the Penguin and also prove that I can wear it better than Kevin's spoilers. So guys, I wanted to start this one by saying how much I am really loving this show. Thanks. So, I was a big skeptic going into this series. I mean, a show about a Batman villain without Batman just didn't seem all that interesting to me, especially considering what Sony's been doing with their something to do with Spider-Man, I think, universe. So, to a degree, I do stand by the sentiment that a show about a Batman villain that kept like referencing Batman would be a bad idea. But that's not what this show is. You know, here's the thing. This show, it has nothing to do with Batman. This is a mob show like The Sopranos or Tulsa King. Hell, it even has hints of Breaking Bad and Ozark, shows that I am an absolute sucker for. We're seeing a rough-edged guy with a questionable moral compass climb the ladder of a crime syndicate, and it's just fantastic. It's funny, it has heartwarming moments, but you also get terrified and fear for the characters when confronted with the weight of the situations they find themselves in. The Batman of it all is honestly the least interesting part of the whole series, and I say that as a compliment.
Hey, where'd your jacket go?
I got a little hot.
Oh, I bet it gets hot down there in that tiny TV.
What was that?
Nothing. Go on.
Okay, so before we get rolling on the breakdown, I wanted to remind you all that we are going on tour and we cannot wait to meet you all in person. It is gonna be a blast. You can get tickets at the link in the description below. And hey, while I have you, I did want to shout out some awesome new designs we have up on our merch store right now, ScreenCrushMerch.com. We've got the Live with Murray Franklin t-shirt with blood splatter, as well as a mug featuring the same logo from that fatal night at his show. We've also got this great Forgive My Laughter, I Have a Condition shirt inspired by the original Joker movie with ha 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 on the back. And we've also got our Monday shirt featuring a sad clown with his coffee mug. Shopping our merch store is the best way to support what we do here on the channel. Thank you so much for your support. Okay, so we open with this shot of Bella Real flyers on the ground, and they read, "Vote for Real Change." This is reminiscent, of course, of the 2008 Obama campaign, whose slogan was Hope and Change. Now, this scene is, of course, happening prior to the Riddler's destruction of the seawalls that we'll actually see blow up a few moments later. Now, I felt that there was really something eerie about this flyer being on the ground. We know that Victor's family and many of the downtrodden, hardworking people in Victor's neighborhood supported Bella Real, and while she does win this election, their victory is met with the tragedy of the Riddler's attack, which kills many of her constituents. On the ground, we also see this Gotham Gazette newspaper. The Gotham-based paper first appeared way back in 1940 in Batman #4. Next, we meet Graciela, who we actually saw texting Vic in the previous episode. On the TV, we hear returns from the mayoral election indicating that Real is in the lead against Tomlin. Tomlin being the current mayor after the murder of Mayor Don Mitchell Jr. by the Riddler at the beginning of The Batman. The name Tomlin is actually a nod to the writer Mattson Tomlin, who wasn't credited for the 2022 The Batman, but who is going to be credited in the upcoming sequel, which it was just reported that's not coming out for another 2 years. So in a conversation with his father, we hear Victor tell his dad that he should be making more money for the amount of work that he is putting in.
You act like wanting more is a bad thing, but I mean, don't you want a better life than this?
If you remember where we came from, we have more than enough.
Victor's father is quick to dismiss this and insists that he is compensated plenty. Vic's father gives the impression that wanting for more is a bad thing, and he has the impression that you should be happy with what you have and be grateful for the roof over your head. While Vic, on the other hand, feels like his father, his family, and himself deserve more. This perfectly tees up Victor's eventual partnership with Oz for a life of crime, and later scenes when Vic talks about his father never getting to eat at nice restaurants, or how his father would be ashamed of him for the life that he has chosen. It's also Vic's lust for more and achieving the high life that we see set up in this scene, foreshadowing his decision not to join Graciela on the bus. Now, both Oz and Vic come from small beginnings, but where Victor's father taught him to be grateful for what he has, Oz's mother taught him to always want and fight for more.
Oh, you're so close now. Having everything you ever wanted, everything you deserve. You want to run? You want to hide? No. This city is meant to be yours, sweetheart.
Next, we meet Calvin, who was actually in the first episode of this series. He was one of the kids with Vic who was trying to steal Oz's wheels. Now, the name Calvin could possibly be a reference to Calvin Rose, aka Talon. That character also had a rough upbringing and was actually kept in a dog kennel by his father. Calvin, or Talon, was the first to escape from the Court of Owls. The Court of Owls being a secret group that has existed in Gotham City for centuries and orchestrated a superhuman army called the Talons. With this specific Batman universe that this show takes place in, and it being focused on the city of Gotham, it would make sense that we would see the Court of Owls make their live-action debut in the Robert Pattinson Batman universe. So perhaps we're seeing the first steps to getting the Court of Owls. We also hear about Squid. This could be in reference to another Gotham crime boss from the comics, Lawrence Lamont.
Calvin, not a part of Squid's crew.
He's not as renowned as the Falcones or the Maronis, but Squid did make a name for himself as a ruthless mobster in the comics. And he first appeared in Detective Comics number 497 in 1980. He also worked closely with other Batman foes like Killer Croc. Here we can see the La Couronne restaurant, which means the crown in French. This is of course symbolic of the fact that Oz, Sophia, and even Victor are in pursuit of obtaining that crown, obtaining power, wealth, respect, as well as the throne of the Gotham underworld. We then see from Victor's perspective the Riddler's detonation of the Gotham seawall, which floods Victor's neighborhood, and we see for the first time just how brutal this attack was on the civilians of Gotham. Watching this bridge get broken by the water creates the imagery of the sink or swim mentality. The bridge to success that some, like Sophia Falcone, have laid out for them from the start is metaphorically and now physically not available for people like Victor who come from small beginnings. This destruction of an already impoverished neighborhood and the bridge that leads to the city, which resembles wealth and achievement, has now created a scenario where only the strongest willed and perhaps the most morally flexible stand a chance at escaping. Now, this whole series has been about the effects of the Riddler's act of terror on this city, and how it has affected the people of Gotham, primarily those who were already figuratively having a hard time keeping their head above water. And now, here they are, literally being drowned. And it's really ironic that the Riddler claimed to be a warrior for the everyman in a fight against the elite, yet his attack on the city hurt the poor and working class the most. Here we see the Elliot Bridge, which could be a nod to the Elliot family in Gotham. Edward Elliot was named in the Batman as having been killed by Falcone. He's also the grandfather of the Batman villain Hush, aka Thomas Elliot, another villain from Batman's Rogues Gallery that would fit nicely in this universe Matt Reeves has created for the Batman. In fact, I could easily see him appearing in the Batman 2, seeking revenge on behalf of the Riddler. You see, in the comics, he was a childhood friend of Bruce Wayne and attempted to murder his own parents so that he could inherit their wealth, echoing the tragic story of Batman and the loss of his parents that would soon come. Thomas Wayne, Bruce's father, would actually foil these plans and save Elliot's mother, beginning Elliot's lifelong grudge with the Waynes. He grows up to become a neurosurgeon and actually teams up with the Riddler in the comics to ruin Bruce Wayne's life. So with Riddler being locked away in Gotham, perhaps it will be Hush who continues his work on the outside and serve as a piece of Bruce's past that he can't seem to escape, especially with the reveals of his own family's corruption in the first film. Here in Oz's apartment, we see a painting behind Vic that is a man examining jewels. By the front door, we see another picture that features different types of diamonds. This shows us that Oz is consumed by material things, and he's a connoisseur of nice luxury items, and he likes to surround himself with them. And hey, speaking of luxury things, I do have a special announcement. Right now, through April 26, you can win $30,000 on ScreenCrush.
$30,000?
That's right.
But how can this be?
Well, there are several ways to enter. If you click the link in the description below, you'll go to a link on ScreenCrush.com. All you have to do is enter your email, then click one of the links for a chance to win. You can read an article, watch a video, like us on Facebook, it's up to you. And each time you enter, you get another chance to win. But this is only until April 26th, so get started right now before you forget. Then scroll down, enter your email, and you can win $30,000 on ScreenCrush. Now, back to what I was saying. So throughout this episode, we once again see Sophia wearing turtlenecks and chokers to hide her neck scars and give the imagery of a noose around her own neck, like the victims of the Hangman. Last episode, we talked about how Sophia is doing everything everything she can to keep her darker half locked away inside of her, but that the Hangman is literally trying to claw its way out of Sophia and hang her like all of its other victims. And hey, in this series, Sophia is absolutely terrifying. There's a moment later in this episode where Johnny Vitti threatens her, and you don't think for a second that we should actually be fearful for Sophia's life. Your immediate thought is, oh, she's gonna kill him. Now, one of the things that added to her fear factor in the comics was that she's huge, kind of like Marvel's Kingpin. Her last name is even Gigante. But this version of Sophia is short and petite, and honestly, I think that makes her all the more terrifying. Now, in Oz's apartment, we see Sophia call Oz's fireplace tacky. Yet another example of the class disparity happening in Gotham and between characters like Sophia, who come from money, and characters like Oz and Victor, who come from nothing. Oz's apartment is super nice and impressive to a guy like Vic, yet here Sophia is looking down on it and calling it tacky. This is foreshadowing that while Oz and Sophia are both strong-willed and determined, and both are willing to do whatever it takes to earn their place, they do, however, come from very different backgrounds that could eventually lead to the two butting heads, and one of them coming out on top. So the question becomes, will it be Oz and his street smarts and sink-or-swim background that pushes him over the top, or will his humble beginnings be his downfall in a street fight with someone like Sophia, who has never known true struggle and may lack things like empathy that are holding Oz back? But again, on the flip side of that, Oz's empathy could be his saving grace because it builds loyalty. Vic is loyal to Oz not out of fear really, but out of respect, whereas Sophia's people aren't loyal at all. But even the ones that are terrified of her. So I think this was all foreshadowed later on when Oz pulls his gun on Vic and asks him if this is how he feels.
Hey.
This what it feels like?
No.
Being with me.
Oz was disgusted by the notion that Vic, someone he thought he was mentoring and taking under his wing, felt like he was somehow a prisoner to Oz.
The fuck, you think I'm holding you hostage or something? The what, you fucking prisoner?
Sophia asks Vic if he's a mechanic.
You're a mechanic.
Yeah, kind of.
Now, Vic's father was a mechanic, so this is again showing us how far Vic has strayed from the path in life that his father would have expected of him. Next, we see that Vic is unable to ignite this lighter, but Sophia and later Oz can do it no problem. Now, on its surface, this of course just means that Vic doesn't have much experience with a Zippo lighter, but I think we're meant to take something else from this exchange. Oz and Sophia have both stepped into the fire. There's no going back. They're in this life for good, while Vic, on the other hand, is still teetering on that edge in this episode. He could still get out if he wanted to, but at the end of the episode, he makes his choice and now he's in it for good. We then get another great shot showing the perspective of the underworld of Gotham, where Oz can operate in a stealth-like fashion, seemingly avoiding even the attention of the Batman. We actually had a shot just like this one in the first episode that showed the tall buildings, then panning down to the train, and then into the dark streets beneath. All of course symbolizing the class disparity and warfare that this series is about, as well as Oz, Victor, and Sophia's lust to climb that ladder. Next, we meet Trey Bloom, Sophia's chemist. This name could be a reference to the Batman villain Mr. Bloom. We'll just have to see. We're then introduced to the new product.
These are bleeding tooth fungi, a rare strain.
Sophia says,
Find me a distributor and we'll paint the town red.
which is a triple entendre. Now, not only does this saying have a reckless connotation, but painting it red is an allusion to blood, the blood of those who wish to control Oz and Sophia, and of course the red ooze from the product itself. So when Graciela asks about Calvin, it sounded to me like Vic was lying.
Calvin's not with you, is he?
No, I haven't seen him.
This is probably because he doesn't want to share with her that the last time he saw him, he was being shot at by the man whose apartment they're standing in. We then get yet another example of class disparity when we see Sophia handed this first-class plane ticket. Now, like I mentioned earlier, when Johnny threatens Sophia, you don't fear him at all. Your first thought is, oh, poor guy's gonna get hangmaned. Now, in the comics, Johnny is the first to die at the hands of another Falcone, Alberto Falcone. So I think the same will be true for this series, and that he will be the first to die at the hands of a resurrected hangman, aka Sophia Falcone, who has been pushed over the edge by the death of her brother. So in a roundabout way, it's still Alberto's effect and his death that is responsible for the death of Johnny Vitti. So next we meet the Triads, a Chinese criminal organization from the comics, also known as the Lucky Hand Triad. They're a group of drug traffickers who run Chinatown in the underworld of Gotham. They have ties to the classic Batman foe, Ra's al Ghul.
To conquer fear, you must become fear. You must bask in the fear of other men.
So Oz coins the new drug Bliss, which is a drug from the comics first introduced in the 2008 run of Titans. It's a hallucinogenic that was actually created using the hormones of kidnapped children. And I really loved how in this scene we're getting to see Oz and Sophia work their magic and sell this guy on their product. It's giving us a glimpse into their history from before she went away to Arkham. Now back with Vic, we see him falling more and more into the life of a criminal, smoothly bribing a corrupt Gotham cop.
It's a lot of money for a kid your age to be carrying around.
I don't know what you're talking about. I don't have any money.
Now at this restaurant, we see Oz scold the waiter for interrupting Vic mid-stutter.
The man was speaking. Let him finish.
But later in the episode, Oz does the same thing to Vic.
Jesus, kid!
Amplifying the fact that Oz thinks that the rules don't apply to him, even rules that he himself has set. So at the club, we see Penguin donning a white suit reminiscent of his white suit from the classic Batman comic run No Man's Land. In that comic, we see Gotham quite literally shaken by a severe earthquake. Most of the city is evacuated by the US government, and the bridges in and out of the city are destroyed, turning Gotham into a no man's land. This was semi-adapted in the Dark Knight Rises movie when Bane takes over Gotham, and it could again be adapted in the Batman sequel with Gotham having suffered a major catastrophe with the Riddler's flood. So Sophia tells Oz,
You say all the right things, don't you, Oz?
which is also true for herself when she says she danced on her father's grave.
And as soon as I had the chance, I danced on his grave.
Sophia is a proud Falcone, but she's also ambitious and will say what needs to be said to get what she wants, just like Oz. We get yet another glimpse at the themes of class warfare, with Sophia wanting to take advantage of the downtrodden during these rough times following the flood.
These people need to escape, and nothing delivers a better escape than Bliss.
Sophia then mentions the Odessa mob and the Neon Dragons.
But if you are not interested, it's fine. I can go to the Neon Dragons or the Odessa mob.
The Neon Dragons are another Gotham City gang who appeared in the Batman and Robin comics. The Odessa mob are Russian mobsters who appear around the same time as the Triad in the comics, and the two gangs went to war over the murder of the Odessa's leader. So next we hear the song Broken Belief by Bob Moses playing, and the lyrics to this song relate perfectly to what Victor is going through. We live in the era of purpose. We live in the era of youth. When the wise man's warning is worthless, I'm just a poor boy begging for truth. Victor is afraid that his father's warnings and beliefs aren't lining up with his current state of life. He's afraid his father would be ashamed of him, but Oz is telling him that that warning is meaningless and that there is no good or bad, it's just life. So Victor really is just a poor boy begging for truth. So guys, I think this episode did a great job at showing us the relationship that was between Oz and Sophia without having to give us any like gratuitous flashbacks. We learned that it was Oz who screwed her over and abandoned her to climb the ladder in his own career. Just like we saw Vic abandon Graciela to return to his life of crime at the end of the episode. Again, Victor's actions are echoing those of Oz. And we close with the song Me and the Devil by Gilscore Heron. This song is about someone coming to terms with the demons inside them, and this applies to Oz, Sophia, and Victor. Sophia is getting closer and closer to releasing her inner demon, which is the Hangman, who, as we've discussed, is literally trying to claw its way out of her. Victor has accepted his walk with the devil by not taking his literal ticket out of town and choosing to stay and walk with his own devil, Oz. Vic has now killed a Maroni. There's no going back from that. And Oz, of course, released his inner demons years ago, and we see them most active in his fits of rage, especially the ones against Victor.
You chose to stay. How about you ask yourself why?
But something each of these characters realizes is that in order to make it in this business, they need those demons. So we see Oz and Victor escape, leaving Sophia behind, which I actually found a little surprising, but then again, Oz's plan is to betray her and the Falcone, so it shouldn't be much of a shock that he left her behind. We have to remember that these characters aren't noble. They aren't the good guys. We are following a cast of villains. And that's why I compare this show to shows like The Sopranos. Not just because of the mob genre, but because of the fact that there really isn't a good guy in the entire show.
You still think there's good and bad, right and wrong? There ain't. There's just this.
So guys, those are all the Easter eggs we caught in this episode. I want to give a huge shout out to Lee Mazzio for his help in writing this breakdown. If we missed anything, be sure to let us know down in the comments below, or you can @me on Twitter. And if it's your first time here, be sure to subscribe, smash that bell for alerts. For ScreenCrush, I'm Colton Ogburn.